Welcome to the Real Truth About Hormones, your Women's Health Masterclass series.
We're your hosts, Dr. Shawn Tassone and Dr. Nat Kringoudis.
Smile. Hi everyone, welcome to our master series called The Real Truth About Hormones. I'm Nat.
I'm Shawn.
And we are really excited to take you through some amazing guests over the next couple of weeks and really empower you and give you some truths about not only your hormones, but the sorts of things you can do in your life to support and help with your hormones outside of what you might do with a practitioner, but all from great experts.
The great thing that's different about this is that you don't have to log in 5 or 6 times today or tomorrow to catch 6 different speakers. We're focusing on one speaker, one topic for the entire day. We're going to have, great added things. We're going to add to this library. This is going to be kind of an evergreen, always growing, different, not just different experts coming on, but the ones that we even have in the next couple of weeks, we'll be adding to their library over time.
It's very exciting.
It's going to be very different.
The other thing that we really loved in creating this for you is that all the interviews that we've done, we learnt a lot, and this is what we do every day. So we know that it's going to bring a lot of value to you as well. If you haven't yet checked out the upgrade to access everything, you need to go and do that. That includes every day a Facebook Live or a live recording with us that you can come, hang out, ask any questions, also access to the Facebook group, as well as the best part, a amazing swag bundle, whatever we want to call it, of awesome bonus gifts and all sorts of upgrades. So you need to check those out, but we'll make sure that you understand what they are as we go. So we need to get into today's interview, which is with a really good friend of ours. A lot of these people are good friends of ours. We're lucky to call them friends. And she is an amazing woman, the creator of Green Smoothie Girl, which she's known so much more than smoothies.
Yeah, author of 15 books, actually, knows tons about EMF, with electronic magnetic frequencies, which is what we're talking about today. Infrared, therapies. I mean, Robyn really knows a lot about alternative medicine in general. And she's also a single mom of 4 children.
Yeah, amazing. So she's got a podcast called Your High Vibrational Life. And also her latest book, Vibe. Was amazing. That everyone needs to go and check that out. So we're really excited to talk to her about EMFs and hormones and the real reason that they're messing with you.
Hey, so we're here today with Robyn Openshaw, who's known online as the Green Smoothie Girl. But I think one of the things that her followers may know her as an expert in, but maybe a lot of other people don't, and it's a topic that I'm certainly an idiot on, is something called EMFs. And I'm not even going to tell you what it stands for because I don't want to butcher it.
I thought you were going to say, and I'm not even going to tell you how much of an idiot I am.
I'm going to say hello to Robyn, and I'm just going to let her start by telling us what EMFs are.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Nat. Hi, Shawn. EMF stands for electromagnetic frequencies, and people also often refer to it as electromagnetic radiation, or EMR. And in Europe and Russia, there's so much research out about the negative effects on human health from constant low-grade exposure to these radioactive frequencies that our devices and this whole getup, everything that we're constantly exposed to, it was never in the natural environment before. What is happening to us as a result of, thousands of times more natural radiation than we used to get is from the sun. That was pretty much our only exposure to it. But anyways, in Europe, they call it electrosmog. And in Europe, they acknowledge this as a real problem far more than we do in the U.S. There are small pockets of people in the U.S. who understand the threat and are doing something about it to mitigate these low-grade frequencies or radiation that we're exposed to all day, every day, most of us. But the vast majority of Americans, and I'm talking like probably close to 99%, have no idea that this proliferation of emitting devices and other sources of radiation in our environment, that it represents a major, major risk to our health.
You've talked about your phone being one of the things that emits EMFs.
and your computer, obviously. But are there other things that we may not realize are actually doing this to us?
Yeah, you know, some things really surprised me. Like I had Dr. Libby Darnell fly out, and we made this video masterclass, and it's, you know, we're testing everything that most people have in their homes, and then we're mitigating it, we're fixing it. And one of the things that shocked me most was my son's gaming system was the highest in the whole house. In fact, when I didn't realize he had 2 of them, I don't know where he got the other one. And they actually pegged out the meter just plugged into the wall, not even turned on. Not even turned on. And since then, I've learned that there could be so much radiation from a game box that a kid has, and that's not a brand name, I just mean the gaming system, that it actually, radiation can be detected from it 2 floors above. So let's say your kid plays in the basement. On the top floor, you can actually still measure the EMF emitting from it.
So how do you measure it? Like, what are you doing?
Well, there's 2 different things, and this is in the EMF Action Plan. Here's where you can get it. You can get it at greensmoothiegirl.com/hormone mastery. Okay, so this is you guys giving away this freebie, but the Trifield meter is in there, and I really like this meter for measuring any spot where you think there might be radiation. Like, you can see your home office, Nat, you can see my home office. I'm in here a lot. I work here full time. And so I want to know that there's a safe level of radiation in my office. And when Dr. Darnell flew out and we made this video masterclass together, she was testing everywhere in my house. And I was shocked to find out that my office is over 8 times higher than a safe limit. And so, you know, we're measuring all these different places in my house, and my son's gaming system was our very worst offender. Wi-Fi is a huge offender. So I keep Wi-Fi turned off most of the time, and now I've grounded everything is one of the things. But having this Trifield meter, and all of this is in the EMF Action Plan. It's free, and you can get it and learn what to do. So this measured, like in my sauna, I had years and years and years ago decided which infrared sauna to buy, and one of the things that I evaluated was I don't want to get in my infrared sauna and have all kinds of energetic pollution when I'm trying to detox, right? So I tested everything from electrical outlets. There's another meter. This is if you're serious about bringing down the EMF in your house. One of the easiest things you can do is a different kind of meter. We link you to this as well in the free EMF Action Plan. And this you can plug in to any outlet, and it'll show you whether you're higher. And it's actually this meter that showed me that my office was 8 times too high. I got some filters. You plug this into the wall and you leave it there. And then if you need to plug something in, you can actually plug it in or here. But this is filtering dirty electricity. And when I plugged a couple of these in my office, I was able to bring that, you know, it's supposed to be under 50 parts per million, I believe. And it was over 400. Then when I plugged these things in, it was now safely under 50. So those are some things, but you know what? I was amazed how much emitting frequencies came from an electric pencil sharpener. Now, why I have a pencil sharpener on my desk, I don't know, because who sharpens pencils anymore?
Only the intelligent people that write for a living.
Right? With longhand? You still writing longhand?
Oh, I said a joke the other day. It's like, don't send me voicemail, don't send me text messages, don't call me on my phone. Send me a smoke signal, because otherwise I'm not going to answer you.
I thought you were going to say send something in the U.S. Postal Service, you know, like snail mail.
That would be
Even
nice.
then, he wouldn't open it.
He wants to go back a couple hundred more years to when people were sending smoke signals.
You wouldn't have this issue. These EMFs wouldn't be a problem, Shawn, so you're onto something.
So I'm curious, like, if my son, so in his bedroom, he has a gaming system, and he's got 2 TVs, because you can't just have one, because you got to be doing 2 things. He's 14. He's already got screwed up sleep patterns because he stays up late and does all this stuff. What's that? Okay, let's just say he's bathing in this stuff. He's got a Wi-Fi booster up there. He's got all this stuff up there. What is this doing to him?
Okay, first of all, a few things you should do for your son. One is if he's not playing the gaming system, it should be unplugged from the wall.
Okay.
Secondly, you should measure his room. My son, who is the same age as yours, when I learned all of this a couple years ago, he was 16, 17. And when I plugged this into his wall, his room was the second highest in the house. My office with all the Wi-Fi and everything was 8 times higher than a safe limit. But his bedroom, and he has been diagnosed ADHD. He's an A student, but he'll tell me, he'll verbalize, I have a hard time focusing, Mom. I feel jittery. I feel this. I feel that. And he's not on any meds. And so plugging a couple of these into his, you don't generally need them for all the outlets, but if that room is high and you can discern that the problem is bleeding electricity with this meter, this meter, the Trifield meter, can measure any spot anywhere, but this is to plug into the wall to see how high EMF is from electricity bleeding into the room. And so my son's was 150. My office was 400. My son's was 150. 50 is the highest safe limit, if that gives you a sense. So we were able.
In your house that are 50?
Your toilet.
Yeah. All the rest of them are. All the other rooms in my house were safe.
Even the kitchen.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you go up with your green wave filter to the refrigerator, it'll go crazy. And if you turn on the microwave, as you can expect, it'll go crazy. So if you're going to stand in front of the microwave, you know what, even a Blendtec blender, when it's like making my green smoothie, will really set this off. I'm not so worried about those once in a while things, although don't stand in front of the microwave. That's just not necessary, right?
Watch the food cook in front of the microwave.
Yeah. We don't want people to be worried to walk over to the refrigerator and open the door and get food out. This is not the level of things that we should be worried about. So there are a lot of different things that emit, but I'm very concerned that we educate people, because when 5G rolls out, and here in the United States it rolls out later this year in some cities, there's going to be 40 times more emitting radiation than with the 4G network. And that is in preparation for what is being called the Internet of Things, where everything is controlled by the internet. Gosh, yesterday I was at a trade show and they were showing me like a water filter where there'll be an app for it and you can check your usage and how your filter is doing whatever. I have a litter robot for my cat right now, and it rotates so you never have to touch the litter, and it's the most amazing thing ever. But when my handyman set it up so that I never have to touch litter, and my cat, it's totally hygienic. And I noticed on my phone that there's a litter robot is one of the Wi-Fi drop-down menu. And I was like, okay, this is what everybody's been talking about. The dishwashers, the refrigerators, our thermostat will be able to be controlled remotely by internet. Well, here's the problem, is to handle that, the 5G network has to have huge, just everything is more, right? More bandwidth, more speed, and so we're going to have something like 40 times more radiation from that. So some of these examples in this free action plan will really help bring your levels down, and it'll really help protect your cells, and since we're talking about hormones here, your endocrine system. There's plenty of evidence that constant exposure to EMF does cause autoimmune disease. And while those studies aren't necessarily done yet, because EMF is really so very new, it's so very new to have, you know, hundreds or thousands of times more exposure to chronic low-grade radiation than there ever was before because of our lifestyle. Those studies aren't out yet, all the studies of the long-term exposure. However, we know that EMF exposure does cause autoimmune disease, so this leads me to believe that there's a huge connection between our hormone health and how much energetic pollution we are exposed to.
Well, I mean, you wrote the book Vibe, and we can talk about that in a little bit. We'll definitely put it in your bio because I think it's a great book. But I'm in the book that I'm writing, I talk about the energetic aspects that I think that hormones actually have in and of themselves, because in a sense they're chemical messengers. And so if the hormone itself has an energy to it, and then you're interfering with other energies, I think that goes hand in hand with hormone imbalance for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like there's, you know, a lot of functional medicine doctors like you are talking about endocrine disruptors that are chemical agents, and practitioners like you too as well, Nat. And so these chemical agents that mimic estrogens or interrupt normal hormone function, it really bears out that the constant interruption of normal human vibration, and everything in life is vibration. Tesla showed that. That's a quote by Einstein. If everything in life is energies, everything in life is vibration, we are organized vibration, energy, frequencies, then these chaotic frequencies are really disruptive to us being able to function like we want to, have the focus that we want to, have our cells be able to carry out all of their functions to a normal lifespan. When they're constantly fighting all these chaotic energies, it's just one of the risk factors we have. And luckily, it's a risk factor that we can mitigate. But we have to help people understand that it even exists. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
True, and I think, I was at a talk a couple months ago with Deepak Chopra was talking about how 89% of the physical universe we see is actually energetic and not physical. And obviously, you got Tesla and Einstein, and we're just kind of coming into that on our own aspects of it. I think you talk about the mitigating factors, and I think people are going to be, because I actually am trying to order stuff on Amazon right now so I can measure stuff in my house.
Concentrate on what we're doing and order it after.
I am, but what I'm saying is I'm like excited because I want to fix my house. And one of the questions we have in here is like, should we wrap ourselves in bubble wrap? And I would assume that Robyn's going to say no, that there's ways to mitigate this stuff. So I think people will be. And
the bubble wrap isn't going to protect you from this one.
Oh, bubble wrap isn't going to do anything. Great.
No.
So how do we mitigate this? How do we help our kids and ourselves and our hormones?
Well, before we talk about that, can we just talk about some of the things that it's actually doing, like that physically we can see it's doing to our health? Sorry, Shawn, to cut you off, but before we get to that, I want to know, how can this show up? Like, what are some of the things that we can see? That you mentioned that your son has, ADHD. Are these things like that make it worse? Talk to us.
Yeah, so the two of you are asking the big questions. Shawn's saying, what do we do about it? And you're saying, what is the problem that it poses? And they're questions you can't really pull apart. And if I answered your question now, if I answered your question, Nat, and then we ended it, then people would not like you guys very much.
Okay.
But there are a lot of sources, and that's why there's a guide, is because it's not one thing. And everybody wants to ask me, well, what's the one thing? Well, if there's one thing and we could just go stick this in the outlet and we're good, then I would tell you to do that one thing. Unfortunately, it's a multifactorial problem, and so it is a multifactorial approach. Luckily, a lot of the things cost nothing. Some of the things cost a little bit, and some things are expensive. Luckily, the things that are really expensive are all on my second priority. But to your question, Nat, I do want to say, for people who are hearing this for the first time and saying, well, that just sounds like somebody made that up and it's a tempest in a teapot, and I walk around and Wi-Fi's on and I don't feel anything. Here's the thing. There are over 8,000 published studies. And even though Western medicine here in North America, at least, is not acknowledging the problem, there are countries who are way ahead of us on this. And there are 8,000 published studies showing that exposure to these chronic low-grade frequencies over time cause cancer, cause cells to mutate, cause the immune system to go down and cancer to be able to get an upper hand, cause autoimmune disease. And this is what both of you deal with a lot in your practice. Women who don't have a healthy hormone system, don't have a healthy thyroid, have this cascading, series of issues. So we know for sure that EMF is linked to cancer and to autoimmune disease. And unfortunately, right now, we are a social experiment. There aren't endpoint data from people studying this on the effect of EMF on human health for 40 years and for 80 years and 100 years. Unfortunately, that will happen, and it will happen after most of us are, we wish we knew. It would be one of those things where we wish we knew. There are health experts like Joe Mercola out there saying that 20 years from now, we will look back and we will see the unmitigated EMF in our environment as how we now look back and look at secondhand smoking. And there'll probably be some people listening to this who don't remember sitting on airplanes and in restaurants with people, you know, blowing smoke in your face, like 50 people blowing smoke in your face. But I'm old enough to remember that. And now for younger people, they can't imagine that. Like, that didn't happen. Nobody would allow. So, I mean, if a smoker comes into a public place, like, people run him out. I was just at a place this week, and I literally said to 2 different guys, do you see the 40 signs around here that say no smoking? Because, you know, I don't want to be rude, but it's like, even if you can't read, there's the sign, and we all know the sign. That's the thing, is right now we are where it's doing some harm to us and to our health. And besides cancer and heart and autoimmune disease, Nat, there is the fact that a lot of people report symptoms like can't think straight, can't focus, can't finish things, can't mentally stay on task. And lots of people who complain of headache, energy problems. There is a conference that all 3 of us go to in August where there are some very finely tuned health and wellness experts there. It's a health and wellness thing, and they haven't yet gone to where they say, could everybody please have Wi-Fi off or just block it in the room? And there are probably 10 who leave because they go in there and everybody's Wi-Fi is emitting, and there's hundreds of people in there with their phones on. And we had a colleague who stood up on the stage and measured it in an effort to educate us. Said we're, and I can't remember exactly how much, but we're like 600 or 800% higher than is healthy. It interrupts the functioning of something as elemental as protons and electrons in the cells.
Wow.
Well, it's funny because I'm old enough to remember when I was a resident, nurses smoking at the nurses station in the hospital. I just had to throw that out.
I thought you were going to say in the operating room.
Well, that would be cool because you got an air filtration system in there. But I mean, you would think that it's crazy being in a restaurant, but a hospital at the nurses station smoking. I mean, so yeah, we've definitely changed. And like I said, I don't know a lot about it, this whole EMF thing, but I think that what I'd like to know really, now that I know how to test, would be, because I'll tell you what, I just moved into a new place in January, and I have been pretty much headache free for a year or so. And since sleeping here, I've been getting a lot more headaches. So I'm wondering now that we're talking if that's part of it. So if I go measure my bedroom and it's high, what do I do?
Yeah, and it could be other things too. So I'm not going to say that because I'm sitting here talking about EMF that the reason you have headaches is EMF. There's so many different reasons that could be, including, did you just paint? Is it off-gassing? Are there some chemical toxicities? But let's assume there's...
Otherwise I'm perfect. I'm physically a human perfect specimen.
So there's something...
Hardly.
There's something very, very...
Hardly.
There's something very subtle going on there since you were otherwise so perfectly in tune.
Yeah. No. But no, so, if I find that it's elevated, what can I do? That's
okay.
What I...
Well, and to go back to an earlier question, you talked about your son, and I want to say that another thing you need to check is whether there is a smart meter on your house. So to both of your questions about you and getting headaches in this new place and your son having, you know, all these different things, including like a Wi-Fi booster, got to shut those down at night. You can't be sleeping like that. My son is having sleep problems too until we solve the issue. And everything in this EMF action plan is stuff that I implemented, and most of it's really easy and quick. You know, like snap a finger is kind of quick, like change a setting on your phone kind of quick. Other things do cost some money. You can do them over time as you have the money for it. But here's a very important one. Find out if your electrical company is using smart meters. These smart meters are telling the level of your usage to the electric company, and they're pinging every few seconds. So imagine a really strong radioactive frequency that's coming through your wall and it's shooting somewhere. Well, the thing is that they don't avoid it shooting right through your son's bedroom, maybe like right where he sleeps at night. There have been people with serious health complications from triangulating smart meters in an apartment complex. And of course, nobody intended that, but when someone's, you know, retina ruptures for absolutely no reason, and they've never had eye problems, and then they figured out it was these triangulating frequencies. So find out if you have a smart meter. If you do, find out where it is. You can measure it. So, Back in the day when I started educating people about this, like 12 years ago, there were people taking a hammer to the, municipal meters, and people were getting in trouble for it, but they'd go out in the middle of the night and they'd smash them over and over again because it was causing them health problems. Now, and I would never tell you go do this act of civil disobedience, but I will say this: one of my employees in the last month has gone to her power department and said, smart meters cause me to be physically ill. Here's a letter from my functional medicine doctor. And that company not only switched her to an analog meter, and a smart meter can make you very, very sick. It can make you and or anybody in your house very, very sick. And if you go to them and say, I don't want it, I just want an analog meter, which sends a signal once a month, not an analog meter, but the kind I have. The kind I have is not a smart meter where it's constantly pinging, but it sends a signal very seldom. I'm not worried about that. And so this employee of mine said, this causes me health problems. My functional medicine doctor will write me a letter to that effect. Not only did they replace her smart meter, but they waived the fee. And there are people who are paying $25 a month so that a meter reader can come past and read their meter, because they don't, obviously, the electric company doesn't want to do it that way anymore, right? They want to do it the high-tech way. Well, the high-tech way, there may be an associated cost in human health.
Do you think that maybe part of that also is that they're aware that it's not exactly ideal? Like, if they're very happy to turn around very quickly and say, that's fine, let's take it out, we'll replace it, I would wonder how much of an awareness they have of how much of a health risk it is for many people.
Well, it's kind of like TSA, if you go for the however many years since 9/11 that we've all been going through these TSA scanners that for a long time they said there's no radiation involved, there's no problem here. And then they were like, well, there's not very much. You would get more if you were out in the sun for 20 minutes or whatever. And I've heard TSA agents say different things because I opt out. They won't let a pregnant woman go through the TSA scanner. And they won't let a baby go through it, but all of a sudden it's fine for you, right? At some age, once you're a walking toddler, they'll let you walk through there or whatever. At some age, they've decided that arbitrarily it's fine. But you know what they would say? It's very low exposure. It's like being in the sun for 20 minutes or 40 minutes or something like that. That's what they'll say is the amount of radiation from any single exposure is low. Well, that's all well and good, except that we all have so many exposures. And so the ones that we can control, we should. What healthy person wants to, go have radiation like a cancer patient does? Nobody would sign up for that. We all understand the risk and how, cancer patients, after they burn the tumor out, those rays, that the radiation just keeps burning and burning and burning. And so there's cells and tissues that are burning for years after radiation. And so, it's all the same thing, but on a low-grade level, but it is the cumulative effects. I just want everybody to remember that. It's the cumulative effect that is the problem. So don't let anybody tell you, oh, this is, it's just not a high level of radiation. And that's when I called about the smart meter, the guy wanted to tell me on and on and on and tell me how safe it was. And I felt like I was back in the TSA line where they said that to me for years.
I think, what's interesting, I once interviewed a woman who had, I think, 11 miscarriages before she changed bedrooms to the back of the house away from the smart meter and then fell pregnant successfully.
Wow.
And she's actually she's a smart lady. She's a biologist, and she worked it out. And then obviously, said to her husband, we're going to the spare bedroom, and they moved and they never had another problem. But I think you're right. And is it also that some of us are more sensitive than others?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I take people every summer to a liver detox retreat in a clinic of biological medicine in Switzerland.
I want to go this year, by the way.
I'm waiting.
I'm waiting now.
There's a few spots. There's a few spots left. We're just waiting for you, like we waited for you last year, Shawn. One day you'll be less busy and you'll come. And in Europe, because it's a little bit more acknowledged, it's still lots of people totally in the dark about it. But in Europe, they call them Emf refugees. And in the clinic where I stay at, I have been there while 2 different patients are treated long-term in that building where EMF is totally controlled, and they've gone to great lengths to use the right kind of flooring and wall coverings, and they don't let anybody in any of the treatment rooms or the dining hall with any kind of emitting device, and they're very vigilant about it. And there were 2 people who literally lived there on site being treated because they were so sensitive to electromagnetic frequencies. And yours and my colleague Dr. Libby Darnell, got very, very sick because she was running one of those bioenergetic machines all day on patients. And she was so sick, she told her husband, if I start hearing voices next, I won't be at all surprised. And she finally started connecting the dots, and she would go outside to ground. In the middle of a Chicago winter, she would go lie on the ground, and all these dirty energies that you pick up go into the ground. It's called earthing or grounding, and you're discharging bits that you don't need and picking up bits that you do. And that's the very layperson way of putting it. But you're discharging frequencies that you may be carrying around that aren't serving you. And you pick up some literal antioxidants from the earth that are useful and healing to human beings. She did that, and all of a sudden she started getting well. She started limiting her exposure, and then she went into this world of EMF, and she was our expert that we worked with on the video masterclass that's like the education A to Z of here's all the things to test, here's all the things to be concerned about, and here's all the fixes for all of them. So you can bring your house way down and have it be that, safe, healing sanctuary that we all want our homes to be, right?
Totally. I would also imagine that some homes are worse than others based on how they're built. Like, we live in a really old house, and from one end of the house to the other, the Wi-Fi doesn't actually reach. It's not a very big house. So I wonder whether that also has something, and the Wi-Fi definitely doesn't reach the bedrooms. So I must admit, though, I should turn it off.
Yeah, and people in apartment complexes or where there's more density, and there's going to be more likely to be smart meters in those situations, they're going to be at higher risk. And I want to go back to something you asked me, Nat, the last question you asked, are some people more sensitive? The theory is kind of like people being exposed to chemical toxins. If your immune system is already really maxed, okay, think of it as the bucket is full, and now EMF hits you, and I walk through a room where there's Wi-Fi and tons of, cell phones and whatever, and I do fine, it's because my bucket's not full. But people have a full bucket, more toxins than their liver can filter, more toxins than their kidney can filter, more toxins than their tissues can deal with. Then EMF or these exposure to dirty frequencies are potentially going to tip them over. And that's very metaphorical. It's not a very scientific way of explaining it. But the point is, those who are vulnerable are pretty likely to be energetically sensitive, or as they call it in Europe, EMF refugees, where they have to literally run away from any place. They start to recognize places where they get sick. They walk in, all of a sudden they have a headache. All of a sudden they have just total fatigue. Common symptoms.
I think you should have a shirt that says "Discharge your bits."
Of course you do.
I do have a shirt that that says something about something about the vibe of your tribe or something like that.
Well, that's appropriate, Robyn.
Yeah. Well,
Totally.
yeah, well, it's appropriate, but I can't remember what the T-shirt said. I didn't make it at this moment.
So we've been asking, there's probably a couple of questions left, because we've been asking everybody what's the one thing, which we understand is fairly impossible, but if there was one place to start, what would that be? And then I'll just warn you, Shawn normally throws in a bonus question, which is usually rather confronting.
Well, I can't wait. I can't wait for that.
It has nothing to do with discharging your bits, though, I will tell you.
Okay. Okay, that's good. I mean, I'm a sex therapist, so hit me, right? Like, go for it. But we get the OBGYN and the sex therapist going, and then it's just like a little bit.
I'll leave you to it. I'll be in the other room.
Yeah, it might get a little Howard Stern-like if we go there, because we'll just both be trying to impress each other with how not shocked we get at things that would shock other people. But the one thing, okay, if I'm gonna get tricked into this question of what the one thing is in what I was telling you is such a multifactorial thing, if there's ands in this sentence, I'm just warning you, there's probably gonna be ands in this sentence. The one thing is to become aware of what your exposures are and to measure them and to mitigate them with some really clear, we made you a link here, you can get it, it's a free video masterclass going to greensmoothiegirl.com/hormone mastery, greensmoothiegirl.com/hormone mastery, and go through the 10 highest priority things, the things that I think matter most, protecting your cells from the emissions, measuring with 2 different meters. Okay, if you're willing to spend a little bit, each one is like $100 and something. A few things that are really easy. Which light bulbs to use? Okay, so obviously there's not one thing, and each one of them may have a fairly small impact. The biggest thing I think is get Wi-Fi out of your sleeping environment. It can't be anywhere near you, can't be in the room. Turn your phone on airplane mode, even if it's across the room from you. Okay, those emissions are constant if you have Wi-Fi on. So if you did one thing, if I get you to do one thing, it's turn your phone on Wi-Fi, get it away from you for as much of the day as possible. Don't put it in your bra, ladies. Don't put it in your pocket, guys, and radiate your little swimmers. Even if you don't think you need your little swimmers, prostate cancer is no fun. Let's just don't radiate ourselves by having our emitting devices next to our body.
Awesome advice. Shawn, do you have your one bonus question?
Because you're the green smoothie girl, and this is a green question. There's a lot going on right now, and I just want the truth, because that's what I'm going to ask you, because you're blunt about things most of the time. What is the deal with celery juice?
Well, we got our friend, the medical medium, to thank for that. He put that out there, and he has no credentials whatsoever, and yet I find him to be completely on target with a lot of the advice he gives, even if his explanation of where he got the advice is that he in spirit came up with it. And hey, I wrote the book Vibe. I believe in intuition. I believe in spirit, and maybe he's better than every single doctor out there. I don't know. I'm actually reading one of his books right now, and I find him to be astonishingly knowledgeable. But he said, you drink celery juice first thing when you wake up, and I've been doing it for a couple of months. I don't feel different, but you know what? I already drank lots of green juice. Drink celery juice when you first get up. Wait at least a half an hour before you eat. As I understand it, this is what he says. And then don't eat any fats till noon. And he says that's a wonderful way to keep the liver detoxed.
So
and it would be better than eating the actual celery.
Yeah, why don't you just eat the celery?
That's what you're going to say, because it's got the fiber in it.
That is what my boyfriend says, but there's not all this research behind what happens when you drink that flood of alkaline-forming, nutrient-dense juice. It's quite powerful and has a lot of healing effects. Plus, how much celery are you really going to chew? That's what I want to know.
I love chewing celery.
Yeah, if there's peanut butter or cream cheese in it, I'll eat the crap out of it.
My mum used to put that in my lunchbox when I was a kid.
Enough said, but I bet it had all kinds of like peanut butter on it. So celery is good. Celery is very good, but that is not going the distance with it like juicing the celery, like I was telling you to do earlier this week, Shawn.
All right.
There you go. So, Robyn, do you want to just give us that link again and let everybody know where they can actually find you? Yeah, free video masterclass. I'm Green Smoothie Girl. You can find us at Green Smoothie Girl on Facebook, greensmoothiegirl.com. But the link to the free EMF Action Plan, which goes through what I consider to be the 10 most important things to address. Some of them are free, some of them cost a little bit of money. And then I think there's another 9 that I'm like, okay, these are your second priority once you bang these out. And you can really bring down the amount of radiation you're exposed to in your home, in your working environment. I think it's so powerful to get educated. So I hope that it serves you. Thank you, Robyn.
greensmoothiegirl.com/hormone mastery.
Yep.
I got it. I'm going to download it now.
Okay.
Robyn, thank you so much for taking the time for us today. This is awesome information. I know that I've learnt lots. Shawn's on Amazon already, so he'll have his arrive this afternoon.
Awesome.
See you.
Okay. Thanks, you guys. Bye.
So you need to go and sort out Anthony's room.
Well, I'll tell you what, after this interview, my son, my 14-year-old, has like 2 Xboxes, 2 video screens, the Wi-Fi boosters in his room, computer, phone. I mean, I think I'm pretty much cooking his testicles.
Well, he's probably cooking yours.
Yeah, well, I'm done. But we'll work on him. But I gotta go test his room as a possible hotspot, because I mean, that's just crazy.
Absolutely.
What's going on?
I don't think we realise the impacts, but what I do love is that what Robyn has shared is some simple things that we can start to action. They're going to actually have a really big impact on our hormone health. So I think that's,
Yeah, and if you want to learn more from Robyn, you can always catch up with her at greensmoothiegirl.com. Like I said, tons of other information out there that she's providing. I think she just finished, and she talks about it in the video, a big video series itself just on EMF with the physician that she was talking about. And that's where, if you upgrade with this series, you will get Robyn's EMF Action Plan, which is literally a physical checklist of the 10 easiest things that you can do to EMF proof your home. And these first 10 things, I believe, are very quick, like bang, 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 something you should be able to knock out. And then even more stuff that may take a little bit more investment, a little bit more time, but there's like literally 10 things I think you can do now to really EMF proof your house.
Yeah, so absolutely upgrade to be able to access that, and heaps of other goodies as well as we go along the way. And don't forget to join us. If you are upgrading, then you get to join us for our live call where we can answer any questions you have about hormones, EMFs, and everything else. So we want to invite everyone to do that, and we'll see you there on that live call.